Hey folks, this is Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and we're looking at another rake knife today. This is the one from that trio that I opened at the beginning of the month. Oh boy, was it in April still? I lose track of time so much and I got so much stuff to do. Anyhow, this is the P848. This is the two-hand opening knife. I think a lot of my European friends have been waiting for me to finally do this review, especially guys in Germany. They have to have knives that are two-hand opening to carry in public. And so this knife, I think, is going to be an excellent choice if you want something that is sophisticated simplicity. That's what I'm calling this. I'm not calling it a gentleman's folder, although maybe it is for some gentlemen. Sophisticated simplicity is what I'm calling this. Full-size knife, feels really good in hand, cuts very, very well, great blade shape, good steel, G10 handle, got some sophistication of having some titanium blue anodized liners. The liners are steel, but they've got a titanium anodization, not sure how they did that, on there, and a deep carry pocket clip. So if you're in the market for something like this, or even if you're just curious about this type of knife, the two-handed folder is, the classic way of doing a folding knife. And unfortunately, some places, some jurisdictions, they're required to have nothing one-handed opening in public. But even if you're in a place where you're allowed to have one-hand opening knives, this, I think, is still a really good choice. I've been carrying it quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and I enjoy it thoroughly, and it works very well. So if you're interested in this, probably my last video for May, because I'm heading off to my niece's wedding in Kansas City. Thanks to my sister who helped fund my way to get to her daughter's wedding. I'll just be there for a couple of days, and then I'm coming back. So unless there's something in my mailbox today, which we'll see in about an hour's time, this will be my last video for May. So check it out, the Ruike P848B. I can see it very clearly in this light with this, through my LCD anyways, how well this blue anodization shows up as I move the knife around. Hopefully it'll show that up that well in the final video as well, because that is beautiful. It's a very good looking touch on this knife. We've got black G10. Black is awesome with this knife. We've got a small back spacer and a nice, beautiful hidden lanyard hole. So it's one of those that goes through a pin in the back. Love that style, although it can be a little tricky to feed a piece of lanyard through there. We've got 14C28N Sandvik stainless steel blade with a bead blast finish that is beautiful. And factory edge on here still, although I've used it for a few weeks. No sharpener's choil. And this time, I don't mind, because a sharpener's choil would just break up these beautiful lines right here, wouldn't it? Just have to be a little extra careful when I sharpen it that I don't get up into the plunge there and mess things up there a little bit. When they sharpened it at the factory, they did get a little bit close. If you look right here, and you can see the light reflecting as I move it. Not a big deal at all. This is a budget knife after all. A budget knife that looks like a sophisticated knife. Deep carry pocket clip, those fold over kind, which I really like an awful lot. Very functional, holds really well, nice and tight. And it doesn't matter that it's right side only, because being a two-handed opening knife, and being this blade design, there's absolutely nothing for this to catch on. I can put this in the left pocket, the blade's forward, nothing's going to cause that blade to open up while it's in my pocket. So if you're a lefty, hey, this knife is perfectly fine for you. Lefty, use your right hand to open it, and you've got your knife. Or you can just go, however you want to open it. If you want to do it this way, hold it like this, you just put your nail underneath and open it. You can get used to it very easily. to open this knife, no problem if you're left-handed. Just like if you're right-handed, same kind of thing. It's very easy to open this knife up. It doesn't take very long, but you have to intentionally want to open the knife up. It's very good detent on here. You heard that suck in, and that keeps the blade closed when you're not using it. Liner lock is not quite up to the midway point yet, but it's getting close to the midway point. Not a big deal, no problem at all. No blade play, side to side, up and down. And you can adjust the pivot screw if you want to tighten it up a little bit. There's no skeletonizing on these liners, and that's one of my only negatives that I have of this knife. I wish they would have made it just a little bit lighter yet. It's not heavy, but I wish they would have made it just a little bit lighter by doing some skeletonizing on that blade. Let's make sure I covered everything. Rockwell of around 5960 for 14C28N, which is really good. I talked about the titanium blue coating on the liners here. Ball bearings. Ball bearings in this knife, and that's what has this smooth action. You'd wonder why a two-hand opening knife needs ball bearings, but even two-hand opening knives want to have a nice smooth action, don't they? And this one does, very smooth action. The alignment is really good when you close it. It's not perfect, but the liner that does the locking, it is bent a little bit to go in this way. And so that's why it looks a little bit off, but it might actually be a little bit over to that side, ever so slightly. Very close to perfectly centered, but not quite. And lockup is solid. No blade play up and down, back and forth. Nice stop pin right there. I think it would have been cool if they would have anodized the stop pin and the lanyard pin as well, but being just your traditional steel color is just fine as well. Now let's talk about the size and dimensions for all the different parts here, and we'll zoom it in for that. And I'll let you see that it is, in fact, a full-size knife. Well, you saw it in my hands. My hands are large, bordering an extra large. In Europe, I'd have to buy a glove size between 10 and 11 in men's. Cutting edge, 8.9 centimeters, 3.5 inches. Blade length is 8.4 centimeters, 3.31 inches, because this tip here comes out so far. So the blade length is less than the cutting edge. The blade thickness is just over 3 millimeters, 0.12 inches. The blade depth is 2.45 centimeters. That's 0.97 of an inch. So basically an inch this way. Same thing with the handle here, basically an inch. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, 0.48 millimeters, which is 0.019 inches. So perfect thickness of the edge behind the grind, exactly what I'm looking for. The handle length is 11.65 centimeters, 4.59 inches. And the grip area here is 10 centimeters, which is 3.94 inches, 4 inches basically. The handle thickness is just over half an inch, 0.132 centimeters, 0.52 inches. The handle depth, like I said here, is 2.6 centimeters, 1.03 inches. So basically it's an inch, and then it goes down to, closer to half an inch here, and an inch, and it goes down to nothing at the end here, right where the tip is. It ends up with air, as it should be. The total length of this knife with the blade deployed is 20.2 centimeters. That's 9.75 inches, 8-inch knife. What we've got is an 8-inch knife, basically. And it's a perfect ratio between blade length and handle length. Balance point it's right where your index finger rests right here, where also your thumb goes to undo the lock, which some people might think is a little blade heavy, but not really, because you put your index finger a little bit forward sometimes, and it's very, very well balanced in hand. I don't mind it at all. How much does it weigh? 102 grams, 3.65 ounces. And that's why I wish there was a little bit of skeletonizing. It's a psychological thing. If you get it below 3.5 ounces, it becomes very attractive to another group of people. And so 0.15 of an ounce, they could have taken off with a little bit of skeletonizing. Not a big deal at all. That's a small thing indeed. How much does this knife cost? Well, I got mine through Ruike Canada. They gave me a special deal, but you can get yours at Ruike Canada for $52.95 Canadian. The Canadian dollar hasn't been doing so good lately, so right now that equals $40.66 US. It equals about 35 euros. It equals just over 30 British pounds. Not a bad price at all for this knife, if you ask me. If you're not in North America, you're going to have to just look up Ruike Knives, Ruike Knives, and you're going to find it. But if you're in North America, go to the link that I have at ruikeknives.ca, and they can ship this to you anywhere in North America. Well, Canada, the United States, that is, and they'll ship it to you. Oh, I shouldn't say anywhere. I don't know if they could ship to the American territories or not, but fit and finish of this knife, for its price, I think it's excellent. For a, $40 US knife, fit and finish here is very, very good. We've got a nice drop point. The stone wash is even all over the place. The cutting edge, the grind is even side to side, right around 20 degrees per side of the cutting angle. The G10 is just ever so slightly behind the liner all the way around. The G10 is really well curved, being milled there, and the edges are not hard. Super comfortable in hand, no matter how you want to hold this knife. You've got a little chamfer up here for a good pinch grip. Just any which way you possibly could think of holding this knife, it's comfortable. Now, you don't have a guard, so if you're going to be stabbing things, well, change your mind. Don't stab things. Not with this knife, because if you stop abruptly, there's a chance that your hand is going to come up over the cutting edge. But if you're just carrying this around, Urban EDC, this thing is an excellent, excellent choice for a full-size Urban EDC knife, being a two-hand opening. I love it. Very, very nice. Like I said, sophisticated simplicity. Cuts very well. Let's do a little bit of cutting. Like I said, this is the factory edge. These are my notes. I've used this thing for about 3 weeks off and on. Actually, closer to 4 weeks, isn't it? That's a push cut trying to stay at the same spot, and it just cuts very well. And that's the part of the knife that I've been using the most, of course. We all cut right there pretty much the most, and then the next spot is right here on the biggest part of the curve, and it just cuts very, very well. Can it cut something more substantial? Of course it can. 4 layers of paracord, and it just zips through all of them like nobody's business. Barely have to try. It just cuts very, very well. And anywhere you want to cut on this, it just works. It's a really good knife for even if you want to do some food prep. You can cut basically right down to the surface because you don't have anything sticking up. So a lot of edge cutting on the surface. Very comfortable knife. You can slice through your apple, through your lunch very well, very easily that way. No problems for those kinds of uses. Let me talk about one of the negatives that I haven't mentioned yet, and it's something that I think Ruike needs to really pay attention to. Hopefully they'll watch this video and pay attention to it. T6 screws are not a good choice. T6 screws tend to strip out too easily. And these screws, I could not take this knife apart because of these screws. I even used my drive grip. That stuff that's supposed to give you 700 times better grip. Even if it just gives you 7 times better grip, 700%. So 7 times better grip. Even if it just gave you twice as good grip, I could not turn this screw at all. And I could not turn this screw. And so I gave up. I could not turn this screw, but it could be a D pin in here. I don't know. This screw I could adjust. Oh, wait a minute. This screw I could not adjust. It could be a D pin. This screw I could adjust, and I could tighten the pivot on that screw. Uh-oh. My light turned off. I don't know why, so I'll turn it to battery backup. So yeah, this screw I couldn't turn. I don't know why. It just didn't want to work. This screw didn't want to work, and it is slightly stripped out already. Mind you, Ruike doesn't want you to take their knives apart, but I like to be able to take them apart and show you the insides, show you the bearings and stuff. And, you know, be that as it may, take that for what it's worth. It is so very well built, you don't need to take it apart. I honestly believe that. I'm totally convinced of that. You don't need to take this knife apart. But I really wish they would have used T8 screws. T8 screws are the standard in the world right now for folding knives. Yes, it looks slightly bigger. Not a problem though, because it's going to be a much better screw for the long term. Like if I send this back to the factory, I don't think they can do a better job unscrewing this than I did. They're going to wreck this knife if they try to take it apart. It's just the way it is. Because I have got high-end screwdrivers and I use that drive grip, still doesn't work. Okay, so that's enough of that. So looking at this knife, what's my overall impressions? I'm loving it. I am loving it. This is a beautiful knife. The more I use it, the more I carry it. So what if I can't deploy it in a super speedy hurry? I can open it fast enough to do everything that I've ever needed to do in my life. And I think it's an adequate knife. I think it's functional. I think it looks great. The back spacer is nice and small. I like, if there's going to be a back spacer, I like small ones. I really love that lanyard system. Oh, you probably want to see if a lanyard goes through there, because a lot of these, I have a tough time getting a lanyard into a lot of those. So let's check it out here. It's always good to get a small pair of curved needle nose pliers. If you buy this type of pre-tied paracord, I know you wouldn't put this color up with this one, but actually blue and orange goes together quite well. That's not going to work because this paracord, you know, just isn't going to fit through here. You know, just not going to work. But get yourself some paracord. This is just a little piece. And what you have to do is cut more than you're going to need and then melt the end, heat it up and stretch it as thin as you can. So this end here is actually fairly stiff. And I like to go from the front towards the back and just start pushing it through and pushing in there. And then you can grab your little needle nose pliers and pull it through and, you know, do whatever tying you need to do and it'll work just fine. No problem at all. So there's that. Now I just realized I forgot to show you how well it sits in a pair of pants in the pocket. So let's take a look at that. Slides in very well and goes over those screws without much effort at all. So you just have the knife sitting there, just barely visible in the pocket. Nice little handle, no problem at all. It does catch a little bit on those screws on some pants, depending on where you do it, but it does get on there. I do like when these screws are set in a little bit instead of sticking out like that. And because they're sticking out so high, as you see right here, sometimes the pants get caught right there on that first screw, but it's really nothing to get it past there and get it down like that. So very good looking in the pocket. And like I said, if it's on the left side, you know, you put it in, let's imagine this is a left side pocket, you put it in, the blade is exposed out here, but there's absolutely nothing that can catch on it to cause it to start to open and become a danger to your hand. So no worries at all for lefties. I know I've said that 3 times, but that's because I grew up left-handed and I care about left-handed guys and I like having stuff that works well for lefties. So there's the knife, the P848. Nice Sandvik steel, great shape, great look, sophisticated simplicity coming at you right here for around $40 US. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.